The scent of vanilla and champagne lingered in the air, blending with the bass of a slow Afro beat that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Inside Velvet Eden, Victoria Island's most exclusive gentleman's lounge, money wasn't just spent, it was flaunted, worshipped, and burned like incense to desire. The lighting was intentional, dim, warm, flattering. Every corner whispered secrets, and every patron had one. Behind the red velvet curtain, Ivy Dandy adjusted her high-slit rhinestone corset in front of a cracked mirror. She wiped a smudge of red lipstick off her front tooth and took a slow breath. She didn't dance for pleasure. She danced for survival. And tonight she was tired. 3 years ago, Ivy had been the kind of girl people admired. Top of her law class at the University of Ibadan, then a fast-track postgraduate year in the UK. Dreams of working at a top law firm in Lagos shimmered in her eyes. But reality came with bills, rejection letters, and a mountain of debt. No firm wanted a fresh graduate without connections. No one cared about potential without pedigree. So she traded courtrooms for catwalks and court filings for lap dances. 1 year, she had told herself, just enough to get back on track. That was 2 years ago. "Dandy, you're up in 3, a voice called from behind the curtains. It was Zena, the floor manager, chewing gum and scrolling her phone. "VIP crowd tonight. Don't fumble." Ivy gave a tight nod and peeked past the curtain. Then she saw him. Alexander Mungaro. He wasn't just rich. He was power-dark suit, no tie, thick wristwatch, and a quiet authority that made even the club's most entitled clients pause when he entered. The whispers started instantly. "That's him, CEO of Mongaro Holdings. They say he controls half of Lagos's underground deals." His reputation was legend. Son of the late Pa Mungaro, the man who built an empire on concrete, politics, and secrets. When Alexander took over, he turned it digital. Tech, real estate, oil, telecoms, legal laundering, some said. Human chess master, others insisted. Ivy had never seen him in person, until now. He sat in the dimmest VIP corner, 2 security men flanking him from a distance. Discreet, alert, dangerous. Alexander sipped from a tumbler of dark whiskey, eyes scanning the stage with quiet disinterest. Until she walked out. The lights shifted. The DJ introduced her. "The woman who makes even courtrooms blush. Give it up for Ivy Dandy." Applause rippled through the room. Ivy stepped onto the stage in heels that clicked like gavel strikes. Her robe slid off with ease, revealing midnight lace and skin that glowed bronze under spotlight. But her eyes were on him. Alexander didn't clap. He didn't blink. His expression remained unreadable. Lips slightly parted, chin rested on a single finger. Like he was evaluating evidence. Ivy danced, but not for lust. Her moves were calculated, sensual yet distant, like a lawyer presenting a case to a jury that couldn't touch her. The pole became her platform, the stage her courtroom, and Alexander Mungaro, the one man she couldn't figure out. He leaned forward only once, when she paused mid-routine and stared directly at him. Just a flicker of emotion crossed his face. Interest, intrigue. She couldn't tell. Then the music ended. Thunderous applause. She bowed, lights dimmed, curtain closed. Backstage, her hands trembled slightly as she grabbed her coat. She was done for the night. Time to vanish before trouble started. But trouble had already found her. As she pushed open the back door into the alley behind Velvet Eden, a black Maserati SUV purred nearby, headlights low, engine humming like a beast waiting to pounce. And beside it, casually leaning against the hood, was Alexander Mungaro. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't threatening, just standing there like he owned the world, and maybe he did. "I didn't peg you for someone who watches strippers," Ivy said, crossing her arms. He looked amused. "I don't. I came for a conversation. You just happen to be compelling. You have lawyers, dozens, paid better than me." "I don't need a lawyer," he said, pushing off the car. "I need you," Ivy scoffed. "What for? Entertainment?" "No." He walked closer. "Something deeper, something strategic. I don't follow men who talk in riddles. I've read your CV, your record. I know where you graduated. I know you were top of your class. I know you applied to 12 law firms, all who turned you down. I know you danced tonight not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Her blood chilled. I don't stalk, he said, sensing her tension. I investigate talent. You're not meant to be on that stage, Miss Dandy. You're meant to be beside me, working for me. She stepped back. So what? This is some billionaire charity case? No, he replied, eyes sharpening. This is me choosing someone with fire. I don't hire people I can buy. I hire people who can't be owned. Silence stretched between them. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a slim black card. Alexander Mungaro. No number, no title, just his name. Come to my office tomorrow. 11 a.m., don't be late. And with that, he slid into his SUV. The engine roared, tires whispered against wet asphalt, and he disappeared into the Lagos night. Ivy stood frozen, staring at the card in her hand. Her world had just tilted again. The glass walls of Mungaro Holdings shimmered like a fortress of light against the cloudy Lagos skyline. From afar, the building looked like power itself, silent, impenetrable, and built to keep people like Ivy Dandy out. And yet here she was. Wearing her one-tailored black jumpsuit and low heels, Ivy stepped out of the cab and smoothed her braids with a trembling hand. She clutched a duffel bag like armor, though she had left the rhinestones and lace behind. The receptionist on the ground floor barely looked up. Miss Dandy? Yes. You're expected. Floor 17, Mr. Mongaro's private suite. Ivy blinked. Private suite? Take the express lift. Moments later, she stood alone inside a sleek glass elevator, shooting upward like a bullet through wealth. The interior smelled of cedarwood and luxury. Each floor revealed more of Lagos beneath her. The chaos of yellow buses, the glitter of Banana Island, the ocean stretching like a silver thread. What am I doing here? She wondered. The elevator pinged, the doors open. Silence. The 17th floor was nothing like she expected. No buzzing employees or clattering phones. Just marble floors, minimalist art, and a long hallway that led to him. Alexander Mungaro stood at the far end of the corridor, his back to her, watching the city through ceiling-high glass windows. His silhouette was precise. Strong shoulders, black shirt, sleeves rolled, watch gleaming. A man sculpted from purpose. Come in, he said without turning. Ivy walked slowly. Her heels clicked like warnings across the floor. You're early, he added. I thought you said not to be late. He turned now, and she caught her breath. Alexander wasn't beautiful in the way celebrities were. He was imposing, every feature sharp, jaw cut from granite, eyes a shade of black that seemed to devour light. There was no warmth in his gaze, but there was focus, the kind that made you feel seen, exposed. I like people who listen, he said, and I like people who explain what they want before dragging strangers into their glass kingdoms. He smirked. Still sharp. Still confused. Alexander moved to a nearby table where a sleek black folder waited. You're not here because of confusion. You're here because you want out. Ivy folded her arms. Out of what? The club, the debt, the waste of a brilliant legal mind. He opened the folder and slid it toward her. She stared. Inside were documents, contracts, background checks, NDAs. But what caught her attention was a familiar piece of paper tucked neatly behind them. Her law school transcript. How did you get this? She asked. I have access to things most people don't. Information is my currency. And what's the offer? Alexander leaned on the table, voice low. I want you to work in my inner legal team, not as a secretary, not as a glorified coffee fetcher, as an analyst, a fixer, someone who handles what official law firms can't. She blinked. You mean illegal things? I mean discreet things. In a city like Lagos, legality is a language. I need someone fluent enough to speak it and bend it when necessary. So you're hiring me to be a cleaner in a suit? No, I'm hiring you because you understand both sides of Lagos. Its prestige and its poverty, its clubs, and its courtrooms. And what happens when I say no? He smiled faintly. You won't. She tilted her chin. You think I'm that desperate? No, he replied. I think you're that hungry. The words sliced clean through her. Alexander walked around the table, stopping just inches from her. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. Ivy, I'm not asking you to save me. I'm offering you the chance to save yourself. You're drowning in a world that will never respect you. I'm handing you a rope. The rest is up to you. Her breath caught. She hated how his voice sounded like truth. But still, she fought. What's the catch? There's always a catch, he said softly. But for now, you get a salary, a company car, a new apartment closer to the office. And if you survive your first month, access to power you've only read about. Ivy's fingers brushed the folder. Her heart hammered. This felt dangerous. It felt addictive. And yet something deep inside whispered, this is your door out. He watched her like a chess master studying the next move. So, Alexander said, are you in? Ivy didn't speak right away. Instead, she reached for the pen on the table, clicked it once and signed the contract. Not because she trusted him, but because this city had eaten her dreams for long enough. The morning sun filtered through tinted windows, casting long golden shadows across the marble floors of Mungaro Holdings. But Ivy Dandy felt no warmth. Her new office, if it could be called that, was on the 15th floor, 2 floors below Alexander's. A corner space with black walls, a sleek glass desk, and a smart assistant named Amaka, who handed her a tablet and disappeared like a whisper. The tablet displayed a single item. Client hash 97, our case briefing, Alexander Mungaro, confidential internal. No background, no context, just a digital signature requirement. Ivy raised an eyebrow. This is how we begin? She hadn't seen Alexander since the contract signing. No welcome orientation, no HR, no structure. Just silence. And secrets. By noon, she was ushered into a room with glass walls, a circular table, and 4 men in navy suits already seated. Their faces were tense, their laptops open, and their voices low. Is this her? One of them asked, eyes scanning her from head to toe. Alexander entered behind her, calm as ever, holding a black coffee and a paper-thin laptop. She's not a consultant, he said, sitting at the head. She's a weapon. Ivy raised a brow but said nothing. Gentlemen, Alexander continued, this meeting is to determine how we bury a lawsuit before it breathes. One of the men, slim, older, with sharp cheekbones, cleared his throat. The woman's threatening to go public with photos. She claims Mr. ADME, the chairman of our oil subsidiary, assaulted her at a private event. Ivy's spine stiffened. Assault? She's not lying, another man said reluctantly. She has CCTV from the yacht. She's contacted 2 journalists. Alexander glanced at Ivy. Fix it. She blinked. Excuse me? You're a lawyer, Ivy. You know Lagos, you know the media. Get her to sign an NDA, make her disappear, or redirect her attention. Ivy's mouth went dry. You want me to bribe a victim? No, he said calmly. I want you to protect this empire. If it falls, so do salaries, lives, legacies. And if she's telling the truth, then she gets a settlement, quietly. No noise, no war. Ivy was silent. Then she turned to the tablet, flipped through the victim's identity Tari, a joke 27. Fashion stylist, single, lower middle class, no legal representation yet. She sighed. I need 24 hours. I'll speak to her. Alexander nodded. Good. As the meeting ended, she caught his eye and gestured for a moment alone. In the hallway with frosted windows casting them in gold, she faced him. You said you weren't hiring me to break laws? I said I was hiring you to bend them, he replied, sipping his coffee. This is serious, Alexander. A woman may have been violated. I know, he said. That's why I trust you, Ivy, because you're not like them. You'll find the truth, and you'll protect this company in the process. His words were too smooth, too practiced, like he was used to manipulating people's sense of justice. "Are you always this cold?" she asked. "No," he said quietly. "Only when I have to be." Later that evening, Ivy found herself at a private cafe in Lekki Phase 1, seated across from Tari Ajoke, who looked nothing like the woman described in the report. She was composed, articulate, and surprisingly calm. "You're not a journalist," Tari said, sipping chai. "No, I'm a legal analyst. I work for Mungaro Holdings." "And you're here to shut me up?" "I'm here," Ivy replied carefully, "to hear the truth." Tari stared at her for a moment, then leaned in. "The truth is, your chairman is a predator. I was invited to that yacht by a friend. He cornered me, tried to kiss me. I slapped him, ran, and now I'm the problem. Do you have the footage?" "Yes, but I haven't released it. I just want an apology. And safety." Ivy nodded slowly. Her phone vibrated. It was Amaka, forwarding a message from Alexander. "If she plays hard, offer N 15 million. If she plays soft, offer 5 and an NDA. Ivy stared at the message, then looked back at Terry. "What if," she said gently, "instead of money, I offer you something better? A lawyer, a case, a spotlight. But only if you're willing to face a war." Terry hesitated. "And what would happen to you?" Ivy smiled faintly. "I'd probably lose my job." They both laughed, though it wasn't funny. Back at Mungaro Holdings that night, Ivy walked into Alexander's office unannounced. "I'm not giving her the NDA," she said. He looked up from his desk. "Why?" "Because she doesn't want a payout. She wants dignity. And if this scandal leaks—" "It won't. I'll find a middle ground. Just give me time." Alexander stood slowly and walked toward her, closing the space between them like a shadow. "You're brave, Ivy. But bravery in this world is dangerous." She didn't flinch. So is silence. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. Fine. You get 48 hours. Don't let me regret it." And for the first time she saw it. The smallest crack in his armor. Maybe Alexander Mungaro wasn't just made of steel. Maybe, somewhere under all that power, was a man trying not to be a monster. It was well past midnight when Ivy stepped out of the rideshare, heels clicking softly on the sidewalk outside her modest Surulere apartment. The air was heavy with humidity, and somewhere nearby, a generator hummed. She clutched her coat tighter around her shoulders, the tension from the day still pressed against her skin. Her mind was on Tari Ajoke, the woman who had refused hush money, who had trusted Ivy with her truth. And on Alexander Mungaro, the man who held Lagos in the palm of his hand and had given her 48 hours to find a way to balance justice and silence. As she reached her front door, she froze. It was slightly ajar. Her heart thudded. She knew she had locked it. She always did. She lived alone, no roommates, no visitors, no mistakes. She stepped back instinctively. Before she could pull out her phone, a tall figure emerged from the shadows beside the staircase, his movements smooth, unhurried. "I wouldn't go inside if I were you," the man said. He was dressed in black, his face partially obscured by a cap, but his posture was threatening. His eyes glinted with something dark. Who are you?" Ivy demanded, reaching for her phone anyway. The man shook his head. "This isn't about you. Just stay quiet, walk away." But Ivy was already running. She didn't scream. She didn't stop. She sprinted back toward the main road, her breath tight, adrenaline shooting through her limbs. She rounded the corner and slammed into someone. Strong arms steadied her. Her heart almost gave out. "Ivy!" It was him, Alexander. Dressed in black jeans and a fitted shirt. Standing beside a matte black Lexus. A single earpiece gleamed in his right ear. "What? How?" she gasped. "Why are you here?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the man emerging slowly from the alley. Alexander's body tensed, his jaw clenched. "I warned them," he said coldly, almost to himself. "I told them she was untouchable." Before Ivy could speak, Alexander was moving. 3 more men appeared, his security stepping out of the SUV like shadows. The man from the alley turned and bolted, but he didn't get far. Two bodyguards tackled him to the ground without a sound. Alexander didn't flinch. He simply took Ivy by the wrist and guided her into the back seat of the Lexus. "Wait, what's happening? Who was that?" she asked breathlessly. He turned to her, his voice flat. "A message." "From who?" "Someone testing me, testing you, testing how much I'm willing to lose to keep you safe." Her eyes widened. "You think this is because of Tari's case?" "I don't think. I know." Alexander started the car himself and drove off before his guards even returned. For a while, silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of the engine and the distant heartbeat of Lagos at night. Ivy leaned back, watching him. "You've done this before," she said quietly. "Handled people like that." "Yes." "Why?" "Because in my world, weakness is fatal." He didn't look at her when he said it. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. "I know," he said, "but you stepped into my world, and now I protect what's mine." Ivy turned sharply. "I'm not yours, Alexander." His lips curved faintly. "No, not yet." They drove past Ikoyi and toward Banana Island, the city lights fading into quiet elegance. Ivy didn't even ask where they were going. She already knew. His mansion stood like a fortress on the waterfront. Black stone, steel gates, glass balconies. Guard dogs watched from behind fences. Security cameras blinked. Inside, everything was cold and luxurious. Gray marble floors, dark art, silent hallways. He led her to a guest suite. The room smelled of fresh linen and wood polish. There was a fireplace, a plush bed, and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the quiet sea. Ivy walked in slowly, dazed. "I'll have your apartment cleaned and locked down," Alexander said behind her. "Security will be stationed there. You'll stay here until I'm sure it's safe." "And if I don't want to?" He stepped closer. Not threatening, but firm. "I don't care. You're staying." She turned to him, frustrated and breathless. "You're overstepping." "You're bleeding," he replied softly. She looked down. There was a shallow scratch on her arm, probably from the alley door. Alexander stepped closer, gently lifting her arm, inspecting it like it was fragile. "I'll send someone to clean it," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to be brave here." The way he looked at her made her chest tighten. For the first time, Ivy saw something human flicker behind his steel gaze. Not control, not strategy, just concern. "I'm not used to being protected," she said quietly. "And I'm not used to protecting anyone," he replied. They stood there in silence. Two opposites, two shadows, two fires. She should have walked away, but she didn't. She turned her face slightly toward him. He didn't move, but his eyes dropped to her lips, then to her eyes, then back again. "Ivy," he said softly, warning himself more than her. She stepped back. Just a step, but it was enough. "I'm going to bed," she said, heart racing. He nodded. "I'll have Amaka send up clothes in the morning." As she closed the door behind her, she leaned against it, heart thudding wildly. He's dangerous, she told herself. But so am I. Rain danced gently on the glass windows of Alexander Mungaro's mansion, a soft percussion that echoed through the silent house like a lullaby for ghosts. Ivy Dandy stood barefoot in the kitchen, wearing an oversized gray hoodie someone, probably Amaka, had left outside her guest room door. The digital clock read 3:14 a.m. Sleep had betrayed her. Her body was still buzzing from the night's chaos, from the stranger outside her apartment, from the fact that Alexander had personally shown up. She opened the fridge and found a bottle of freshly pressed pineapple juice, poured some into a glass and leaned against the marble counter. The house was quiet, still, too still, until she heard a voice. "You should try the hibiscus instead. Less sugar, better kick." She turned sharply. There he was. Alexander barefoot, shirtless, wearing only black sweatpants, a glass of whiskey in one hand, the other hand resting on the doorframe. Every muscle in his chest caught the low kitchen light. But what struck her more was the weariness in his eyes. He looked tired, almost human. "I didn't hear you," she said softly. "I didn't want to be heard." He walked toward her slowly, each step quiet but deliberate. When he stopped in front of her, Ivy expected some sarcastic remark, some flirty jab, but he simply took the glass from her hand and replaced it with his. "Hibiscus," he said. "Told you." She took a sip. It was tart, cold, and sharp, like him. They stood in silence for a moment, the space between them charged with something neither of them wanted to name. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Not after everything." He nodded slowly. "I get it. Sleep is for the innocent." "And you?" she asked. "When did you stop being innocent?" His jaw clenched. She saw it, the shift, the flicker. He stepped away, walked toward the glass windows, and stared out into the darkness. "You know the story Lagos tells about me?" he asked, voice low. Ivy shook her head. "That I'm a tyrant, a cold-hearted heir, a man born with everything except a soul." "Is it true?" she whispered. "No." His voice cracked slightly. "But it used to be." She walked closer, slowly watching the man who had become Lagos's enigma. "My father wasn't just powerful," he continued. "He was brutal, ruthless. I saw him beat a man to death when I was 10. I saw my mother cry in silence for years, and when I turned 16, he gave me a choice. Take the empire or be buried under it." Ivy said nothing. "I chose survival," Alexander added. He turned to face her now, his eyes darker than before. "I don't trust easily. I don't love easily. Everything I have, I had to kill something in me to get it. And I've never regretted any of it." She studied him, heart aching in ways she didn't expect. "Until now," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "Why now?" "Because you're here, and you see me in ways I don't want to be seen." Ivy reached out, almost without thinking, and placed her hand gently on his chest. His skin was warm. His heart thundered beneath it. "I don't want to fix you," she whispered. "I know. I just don't want to lose myself either." He placed his hand over hers. "You won't. I won't let you." The silence between them stretched, soft, thick, almost sacred. Then she said the one thing she wasn't supposed to say. "You're not a monster, Alexander." His hand tightened slightly. "I am, but somehow, you make me forget that." She didn't pull away. She didn't step back. And when he bent slightly, lowering his face to hers, she didn't stop him. Their lips brushed, barely. A breath, a question. Then the kiss deepened. It wasn't frantic or hungry. It was slow, like peeling away armor, like saying "I see you" without speaking a word. And just as suddenly, he pulled back. "Ivy." She stepped back this time. Not from fear, from understanding. "I know," she said. Without another word, she left the kitchen and walked back toward her room, her heart pounding, not from lust, but from everything that moment had meant. Behind her, Alexander stood alone, staring into the glass, wondering if, for the first time, he'd allowed someone too close. Banana Island glistened beneath the early morning sun. Palms swayed lazily in the soft breeze. Luxury cars lined marble driveways, and silence spoke louder than wealth ever could. But inside Alexander Mungaro's mansion, the silence was anything but peaceful. Ivy Dandy sat on the edge of the guest room bed, staring at her phone. 3 missed calls from Taria Joka, 2 from Amaka marked urgent, and a calendar update from Mungaro Holdings titled, "Client Review, Meeting 10:30 a.m. High Priority." Her thoughts were scattered. Flashes of last night kept returning. The soft kiss, the weight in Alexander's eyes, his hand over hers, and the way he had pulled back, not out of disinterest, but restraint. She got up, dressed in a navy pantsuit Amaka had left for her, and walked downstairs. The staff moved like ghosts, respectful, silent, trained. One of them, a young woman named Ada, offered her a steaming cup of chai and led her to the waiting company car. The entire ride to the office, Ivy tried to center herself. But the moment she entered the boardroom, balance slipped from her fingers. Because sitting across the table from her, in a crimson blouse and a tight smile, was Bianca Eze, Mungaro Holdings' lead in-house counsel and Alexander's rumored on-again, off-again flame. "Miss Dandy," Bianca said with a tilt of her head, "you're here early. Ambitious." "Always," Ivy replied, sliding into the seat beside her. Bianca leaned in, her perfume sharp and sweet. "Just a warning, don't let special attention from the boss confuse you. He gets attached to shiny things." Ivy smiled. "Don't worry, I don't break easily." Before Bianca could reply, the glass doors swung open. Alexander entered. Black suit, crisp white shirt, confidence in every step. His gaze found Ivy immediately. It lingered. Just long enough. "Let's begin," he said, taking his seat at the head of the table. The meeting was brutal. The client in question, a shipping partner, was demanding restitution for a failed delivery deal. Bianca threw around legal jargon like daggers. Ivy, calm and collected, countered with logic that silenced the room twice. But it was when Alexander called for Ivy's opinion specifically that things shifted. "Miss Dandy," he said, eyes never leaving her, "what would you recommend if we were to settle privately and still preserve our leverage?" Ivy responded with a sharp, strategic breakdown. The board listened. Bianca stiffened. Afterward, as the room cleared, Ivy packed her files calmly. "You're making enemies," Amika whispered as she passed her by. Ivy smirked. "Let them come." Later that afternoon, Ivy returned to the mansion for a scheduled virtual deposition. The temporary office Alexander had given her overlooked the ocean, with minimalist decor and thick glass windows that trapped the sun like a kiss on her skin. She was halfway through the review when she heard footsteps. Turning, she found him, Alexander, standing in the doorway, jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled, hands in his pockets. "You handled Bianca well," he said. "She was testing me." "They all are. Even you?" He walked in slowly. "Especially me." She stood, her pulse quickening. "Then why bring me in if you were going to put a target on my back?" "Because I needed to see if you could survive it." "And if I couldn't? I would have protected you." She stared at him. "You don't protect people, Alexander. You possess them." That made him pause. "Ivy," he said softly, "you think I'm trying to own you? Aren't you?" "No," he replied, "but I can't lie. I don't like sharing." He walked closer. "I see how the other men in the office look at you, how they try to belittle your mind just to justify their fear. I'm used to it. You shouldn't be." He reached out and gently touched her wrist. "You've changed things, Ivy. You've made me see this world through your eyes, and I don't like how ugly it looks now." Her breath caught. "Then change it." "I'm trying." His hand slid up her arm, his eyes locked on hers. "But every time you walk away from me, I feel like I'm bleeding in silence." The words hung in the air. Dangerous, vulnerable. "I'm not your weakness, Alexander." "No," he said. "You're my awakening." And then again, their lips met. But this time it wasn't a whisper. It was a claim. It was fire. It was control unraveling. He pulled her in, pressing her back against the wall, his hands braced on either side of her face. Her fingers slid into his hair, pulling slightly, tasting the truth he'd tried to hide for too long. When they finally parted, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "I want you in my world, Ivy," he whispered, "but on your terms." "And if my terms scare you?" He smiled faintly. "Then I'll be the one begging." She laughed softly, stepping away. "Good, because I don't bend for anyone." "Then I'll be the one learning how to kneel." The scent of mahogany and polished leather filled the high-level meeting room in Mungaro Holdings. The Lagos skyline stretched endlessly beyond the glass, but Ivy Dandy's eyes weren't on the view. They were on the file in front of her. Client file, Kingstone Petroleum, versus Mungaro holding status. Critical category, confidential. Amaka had handed her the folder that morning, face unreadable. Alexander said you're the only one he trusts with this. That meant only one thing. This wasn't a case. It was a war. As Ivy flipped through the pages, a chill settled into her bones. Kingstone Petroleum, a longtime partner in Mungaro Holdings' offshore ventures, was accusing the company of contract breaches, backdated deals, and internal fraud. The type of case that could tarnish the empire. The type that suggested someone inside was leaking information. Someone close. The door opened. Alexander entered, his presence eclipsing everything else in the room. He wore all black again, fitted suit, no tie, watch gleaming. He looked like a man preparing for battle. "You've read it," he said, not asking. "I have." "Thoughts?" "It's not just a lawsuit, it's sabotage." He nodded slowly. "I agree." She closed the file. "And you think someone from inside your circle is behind it?" Alexander leaned against the edge of the table, folding his arms. "I don't think, Ivy. I know." Ivy's voice was steady. "Who?" His eyes darkened. "Bianca." Ivy blinked. She handled most of the oil contracts, but 2 months ago she started declining my private meetings. She stopped forwarding emails to legal, and last week someone used my private access code to open the restricted vault. "You think she's working with Kingstone?" "I think she's playing a long game." Ivy exhaled. "And you want me to handle the fallout?" "I want you to fix it," Alexander said, "before it blows up in the press." She nodded slowly. "I'll need full access to her files, internal messages, and contract history." "You'll have it. I've already revoked her executive clearance. But Ivy," he stepped closer, "she's not just a lawyer. She's dangerous. She knows things. If she senses you're digging, she'll strike first. So will I." He studied her face. "Promise me one thing." "What?" "If she comes for you, don't be noble. Be ruthless." Ivy's lips curved faintly. "I learned from the best." By nightfall, Ivy was in the underground data vault at Mongaro Holdings. The lights flickered cold white as she scrolled through Bianca's encrypted emails and flagged contracts. And there it was, a coded message, embedded in a Kingstone contract line item. "White flame dances best in silence." It was a phrase from a Mungaro boardroom meeting 5 years ago. A phrase only Alexander's top executives knew. A phrase she now found attached to a $50 million offshore transfer. And Bianca had signed off on it. Ivy's chest tightened. As she printed the file, the door creaked behind her. She turned. Bianca. Red lips, black trench coat, stilettos that clicked like gunshots. "I should have known it would be you," Bianca said smoothly. Ivy stood taller. "Funny. I was thinking the same thing." Bianca stepped forward, slow and graceful, like a panther that had already circled its prey. "Do you know what your problem is, Ivy?" she purred. "You think brilliance is enough. But in Lagos, power always wins." "Then why are you losing?" Ivy replied coolly, holding up the file. "You left your fingerprints on the flame." Bianca's eyes flickered. "You won't win this." "I already did." And with that, Ivy walked past her, fearless. She didn't see the fury flare in Bianca's eyes, but she felt it. She didn't know how soon it would come back to bite. Back at the mansion that night, Alexander stood barefoot by the pool, hands in his pockets, his reflection rippling beneath the water. Ivy approached, holding the printed file. "She did it," she said softly. "I have proof." He didn't look at the paper. He looked at her. "You never stop surprising me." She walked closer. "Are you going to fire her?" "I already did." "And the legal fallout?" "I'll handle it." "But there's more, isn't there?" He exhaled slowly. "Bianca wasn't just an employee. She was my father's protege. She helped bury bodies, both legal and otherwise." Ivy's chest tightened. "And now, she's become a liability." They stood there, the night breeze tangling their hair, the ocean's scent thick in the air. "You know," Ivy said quietly, every time I peel back another layer, I expect to find nothing but stone in you. And yet, he asked, I keep finding pieces. He turned to her fully. I've spent my whole life building walls, and now somehow you're kicking holes in them. She stepped closer. Let me. This time when he kissed her, there was no hesitation, no second guessing, just heat, desperation, and a need neither of them could silence anymore. She wrapped her arms around his neck. He pulled her against him like a man who'd forgotten what softness felt like. And when they broke apart, breathless and undone, he whispered against her skin, You're not just the woman I want. You're the woman I need. Ivy didn't pack much. Just her tablet, a change of clothes, and the courage to walk away from a man who had wrapped himself around her breath without permission. She had typed the resignation letter twice, deleted it, typed it again. Each word tasted like betrayal, but staying would have been worse. The file on Bianca had been handed off. Kingstone Petroleum was silenced. The empire was safe again. But Ivy wasn't. Her heart had become a battlefield, and Alexander Mungaro was both the war and the reason she wanted to survive it. As she descended the grand staircase of his Banana Island mansion, the staff all knew, no one said a word, but they watched her like they were watching the sun disappear behind clouds. She reached the front door, her Uber waiting quietly beyond the gate. But the moment her fingers touched the handle, his voice stopped her cold. Ivy! She froze. His footsteps were quiet, but the air shifted with his presence. When she turned, he was already there, barefoot, shirt unbuttoned, eyes red-rimmed from something he never let the world see. I didn't want to leave like this, she said softly. He shook his head. Then don't. I can't breathe here anymore, Alexander. I'm losing myself. He stepped closer, voice raw. Then take everything. The title, the company, my world. Just don't leave. She blinked, heartbreaking. You don't need me. You're wrong, he rasped. You're the only thing that keeps me grounded. He reached for her hand, desperate, not demanding. When everything feels like it's slipping, you're the only thing I can hold on to. If I let you go, Ivy, I swear I'll lose my mind. Her throat tightened. Alexander, I wake up and look for you. I close my eyes and hear your voice. I built this empire to protect myself, and now I'd burn it down just to keep you near. Tears stung the backs of her eyes. She hated how much she wanted to stay, but loving him felt like drowning in diamonds. Beautiful but deadly. You deserve someone who doesn't have to fight every instinct to stay sane. I don't want someone, he said fiercely. I want you. His hands cupped her face now, forehead pressed against hers, his breath shaky. I've lived in darkness for years, Ivy. You were the first light that didn't blind me. I'm scared, she whispered, of becoming another part of your control. I don't want to control you, he breathed. I want to choose you every day, even when you walk away. She leaned into him, trembling. Then let me walk away. Just this once, let me breathe. He closed his eyes, swallowed hard, nodded, and then slowly he stepped back. Promise me one thing, he said, voice low. What? Don't disappear. If you need space, take it. If you need time, have it. But don't vanish, Ivy. Don't leave me in the silence. I won't, she promised, her voice cracking. But I need to remember who I was before you. He gave her a sad smile. And I need to remember how to be someone without needing you to survive. Their fingers slipped apart like threads of silk. She walked out the door. He didn't stop her. But as the gate closed behind her and the Uber pulled away, Ivy glanced back and saw him there. Barefoot, shirt open, eyes locked on her like a man watching his world collapse in silence. The rain had returned. It fell in slow, steady streams against the glass wall of Alexander Mungaro's bedroom, casting shadows that moved like ghosts across the floor. The room was quiet, dimly lit by a single wall lamp, but in his mind the noise was deafening. He sat on the edge of his bed, elbows on his knees, hands clasped like a man in prayer, but there were no words left. He had built cities, toppled governments behind boardroom doors, controlled the kind of wealth that made other men kneel. And yet here he was, alone, unable to breathe, because one woman had walked away. His jaw clenched as his thoughts spiraled. How many people had he buried under ambition? How many lives had he stepped over to protect his legacy? He had done things the world would never know. Deals sealed in silence. Choices that cost others their innocence just to keep his empire from crumbling. And then came Ivy Dandy, a woman who looked him in the eye and saw not power, but pain. He heard the door open softly, and for a moment, he thought he imagined it. But then her voice filled the room. "Alexander!" He turned slowly. She stood in the doorway, soaked from the rain, breath shallow, chest rising with emotion she wasn't even trying to hide. "I thought you left," he said, voice hoarse. "I did, but I couldn't stay gone." He stood. She walked toward him slowly, step by step, tears in her eyes. "You changed my life," he swallowed. "I was just surviving when you found me, living night by night, body on display, soul locked away. And then you pulled me out." She stood in front of him now. "You didn't just give me a job. You gave me a name, a place, a reason. Ivy." She reached up, touched his face. "But I don't want to keep fighting wars. I don't want to clean up messes that don't align with who I am. I want us to be built on something real." He was silent, breathing her in. She continued, voice trembling. "You don't have to be a weapon anymore. You can build a kingdom that doesn't draw blood. You can run your company with ethics, with honor." His eyes welled. No one had ever said those things to him. She wasn't begging him to soften for her. She was believing that he could. "For the first time in my life," he whispered, "someone sees me." She didn't answer. She just pulled the hem of her blouse slowly upward and slipped it over her head. The fabric hit the floor. Her hands moved to her trousers next. And in silence, she stood before him, bare, vulnerable, brave. "I used to strip because I needed money," she said quietly. "Tonight, I strip because I love you." His breath caught. She stepped closer, took his hands, and placed them on her waist. "You're the first man who's ever touched me without taking something. Tonight, I want to give." His hands trembled. And then, finally, he kissed her. Not with greed, not with dominance, but like a man who had found water in the desert. His lips trailed from her mouth to her collarbone, down the line of her chest. He kissed every part of her body like it held scripture, like it had healed him long before he realized it. She gasped as his mouth moved lower, exploring, worshiping. Her fingers dug into his shoulders as his hands moved across her thighs, her hips, her stomach. Every touch was deliberate, every kiss an apology, every breath a promise. He laid her gently on the bed, covering her with his body, protective but never possessive. And when he entered her, it wasn't the act of a man who wanted to conquer. It was the surrender of a man who had finally found home. They moved together, slow and sacred. She arched beneath him, whispered his name like a prayer. He gripped her like he never wanted to let go. Their bodies tangled, their hearts wide open. Time disappeared. The world quieted. It was unreal, surreal, magical. When it was over, they didn't speak. They just held each other, skin on skin, soul to soul. And for once, Alexander Mungaro didn't feel like a man trying to outrun his demons. He felt like a man who had finally been forgiven. The early Lagos morning crept through the sheer curtains of the bedroom like a secret. The storm had passed, but the air still held the weight of everything that had been said and everything that had been felt. Ivy Dandy lay with her head on Alexander's bare chest, their legs tangled under the sheets. His arm rested gently across her back, his fingers stroking the curve of her shoulder like he was memorizing it. Neither of them spoke. Because words would only fail what had just happened. Love had not been made. It had been reborn in fire, in silence, in surrender. But now the world was stirring. The company, the board, the chaos waiting just outside the walls of Banana Island. And choices had to be made. I can't go back to what we were, Ivy said softly, her breath warm against his skin. I know. I love you, she whispered. His hand stopped moving. Say it again. She lifted her head and looked at him. I love you. Not because of your money. Not because of what you've done for me. But because somehow the man you hide from the world is the one I see. His eyes shimmered. And I love you. Because you were the first to walk into my fire and not flinch. The first person I didn't want to burn. They lay in silence again, until she sat up, drawing the sheet with her, and looked down at him seriously. I need you to let me help you rebuild, but on better terms. Alexander sat up too, facing her. I'm listening. No more intimidation tactics. No more shady deals. You have the power to run your empire cleanly with integrity.